Alright, so for the majority of this level, we're going to be trying to free Jack Sparrow from prison. And we do this by firing cannons at the opponent's ship, the Black Pearl. The thing is, though, that no matter which order we fire the cannons in, or which jail cell we shoot, Jack will always be in the final one we shoot. It does not matter in the slightest which order you fire the cannons in, not even a little bit. He's always the last one. Now, of course, there are optimal orders to fire the cannons in, so maybe you'd want to do that. But it's not really a time is the essence situation. You can take as long as you want. It's worth noting that for some reason after you fire a cannon, the torch in your hand just fucking disappears like it's a key in Legend of Zelda or something. I really like these sections right here where you crawl on the ceiling to knock blocks down off the ceiling. This is the only LEGO game I can even remember doing that, and it pulls that trick like 3 times, but I like it. The reason I think it's good is because you look around and you can see the color of blocks that are missing, so you search the environment for the color of blocks, and then you see them on the ceiling, and you're like, what the fuck, how are they on the ceiling? So you go up there and knock them down. It's just kind of fun to do. Also, there was a wheel up there, which we're going to need anyway. You may notice the helpful golden arrows telling you where to put pretty much everything in the game, so getting lost is almost impossible. I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but it's almost impossible. I'm waiting patiently for there to be a segue from the game mechanics of LEGO Pirates into the other shit I came here to talk about. It's not coming. Maybe it's just the lack of Jack that's causing the uncertainty. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe my analytical skills have been hindered by the lack of Jack Sparrow. But that's okay, he'll be back soon. Just need to get the rest of those blue pieces onto the rails, onto the grid, onto the checkered sliding path. The way they stack these blue and white pieces make them look like a really weird cake. I still want to eat it. It's a very weird shape for a cake to be. I wonder what the blue tastes like. I'm sure the white just tastes like angel food cake or some shit, but I wonder what the blue would taste like in that equation. Let's just keep trying to talk about anything besides my mental issues. That seems to be going well so far. So how about that, how's everyone's feel about whether it's ethical to keep pets? See, I think the only way it would be perfectly ethical to keep pets is if you allowed the pet to leave at any time, but then it could wreak untold damage on the environment, kill other animals, or even injure or kill itself. But at that point, you're asserting your will over the animals, like you think you know what's better for it than it does. And that's a dangerous road to go down. Because it's easy to think you know better for someone than they do, and animals are no different. Alright, so I have multiple personality disorder. I guess it's called, like, dissociative identity disorder now, but more people recognize it when you use the original term. Although I'm not sure many people understand how it works, but that's okay because medicine and science doesn't understand a lot about how it works yet. Which is perfectly reasonable. It's a very uncommon condition to have. And for most of my life, I just kind of, like, pretended I didn't. You know, everybody in here, everybody in this body, just kind of pretended that wasn't a thing, that wasn't an issue. Just pretended to be one person because it was easier that way. But that kind of sucked. Like, we wasted so much of our life pretending to be a single person. This really blows. It's time I can't get back. It's time none of us can get back. It is perfectly safe to leave Jack underwater, by the way. He won't drown as long as you're not controlling him. It's a life tip. It's only useful in this specific situation, though. This is the only time that comes up. You know, I often forget about this part of the level, but I do remember Elizabeth being stuck on the wrong ship. Or rather, her AI being stuck on the wrong ship. Hopefully that memory is false. So there's a mini-kit here that's difficult to reach, but if you fall down in just the right spot... there we go. We can get it, and I'm not sure if that's how you're meant to get it, but that's how I've always gotten it. It doesn't matter as much what they intended you to do, it matters whether you get the results you want. Sometimes the mini-kits themselves will appear on Jack's compass, though this seems to happen very infrequently. Usually it just leads you to an inconsequential treasure, or something that creates a mini-kit, but not usually a mini-kit itself. The thing about... I switched to Mr. Gibbs mid-death. That's hardly fair. By the way, you can tap the action button to make people repair things faster, but I didn't realize this until way later. Even though I played this game many times before, it never occurred to me to try tapping the button. As I was saying, the thing about this mental disorder is that even when I've tried to be open about it, it's still much more tempting to just not be who I want to be, or let the others be who they want to be. It is so much more tempting just to not acknowledge that this isn't my body. It is a shared body with 6 other people. It's so much more tempting not to acknowledge that fact. And it doesn't help that it's kind of a difficult thing for a lot of people to wrap their mind around, especially since general media portrayals of individuals with multiple personality disorder have not exactly been positive or accurate. I do like Moon Knight. I wouldn't say Moon Knight's situation is accurate to my situation, but I do recommend everyone read Moon Knight on a completely unrelated note. But yeah, I guess on our 25th birthday, me and the others just kind of decided we're not dealing with this shit anymore. We're not pretending to, yeah, Elizabeth got stuck on the other ship. We're not pretending to be one person anymore. We all have different beliefs and feelings and goals out of life, and we're not going to stifle that because it's not something most people understand. It's not our business whether they understand. I didn't ask to be this way. If someone tried to make me not this way, you can sure as fuck bet I'd fight him, though. I'm not interested in your fucking cures. As far as I'm concerned, that's murder. This level's cool. It's really open and places a whole lot of emphasis on the exploration elements of this game. There's a lot of wandering around this island, grabbing stuff, and just, you know, you don't know what you're doing, but you have the magic compass, you follow the magic compass where it tells you to go, and then you dig up something, or you punch something, or you give something to someone else, and you'll figure it out. I think the compass is actually great, a great facet of game design, because not only does the compass lead you to extra goodies and reward you for general exploration, but the compass also leads you to plot important things that help you proceed. So exploring itself is fun, And while you're doing general exploring, you'll also be led to the next story objective. I mean, if you don't like the exploring in the game, it probably won't be as fun. But if you're having a good time exploring, then while you explore in general, you'll also find your way forward. It's a mini kit back here I want to dig up before we go any further. But yeah, I really like the way this game encourages exploration. Doesn't always tell you exactly which treasures you need, but if you look for some of the treasures, you're bound to either find something interesting or the way forward, and usually both. So that's just great. The compass is a great addition to the game, and I'm really happy with it. So it's time to talk about some abstract shit that most people probably will never ever have to deal with in their entire lives, but has been the norm for me for years and years. First of all, myself and the other personalities, I feel so wrong to call them personalities, but don't worry, I'm getting there. Myself and the others, although we have no issues presenting as a male in terms of biology, inside our head, all female. All of us, believe it or not. So from now on, instead of referring to the others as multiple personalities or other personalities or just others, I'm going to be calling them sisters, because that's how I feel about it. You know, they're people. They're not just some abstract concept that needs a weird label attached to it, a weird dehumanizing label. They're people with their own beliefs and ideals and feelings. It's not just like some sort of weird addition to an existing personality, and they're more than just other personalities, they're entire people. And it just feels wrong to deny calling them other people just because of this situation we have and because other people might think it's awkward or not understand it so well. So from here on out, I'm going to refer to them as and consider them my sisters, my siblings. So here's a mechanic that comes up a few times, surprisingly, where you look through some sort of scope, find an object of interest, and follow it. This comes up well over 10 times in the game, and I can't remember another LEGO game where this comes up. It's kind of cute, little sort of, Where's Waldo thing. I really love the way this level makes use of the limited space and open environment it gave itself. Like, we have to go back through that cave, but this time there's a laser pointing back through the cave that we have to deflect across multiple points. Like, this is a really, really open map, but even given that, going back through it without any changes would be a bit much. But they mix up the mechanics when you go back through a second time. I don't know, this level's just great. It's a great example of what makes this game cool and fun, and if I had to only show one level of this game to convince people to play it, it would probably be this one. Because there's so much exploring, and there's some decent puzzle solving. There's one of those reflect the light puzzles that lasts about an entire half of the level, and it's baby's first reflect the light puzzle, but it's still good. I know a friend that did an escape the room once where you had to do a reflect the light puzzle for real. Apparently, it's much more difficult in real life. I could have guessed that, but it's good to have an account that it is, in fact, much more difficult in real life. So we need to grab enough wood to start a signal fire, and that's what this section of the level is about. Gonna fling the wood using this catapult. Now, something important to note about this catapult is it is possible to also fling yourself using it, which is fun. But is not the Not the ideal way to get where you need to go. Does anyone have any idea why hyper-concentrated beams of light in cartoons and video games make a really high-pitched sound? Like a high-pitched whining noise? I always thought that was very strange. I don't get what that's meant to convey. But yes, I'm all over this. Most of the puzzles in LEGO are pathfinding, and this is really good pathfinding, going back through an area you've already explored but with additional mechanics that open new pathways. Shows you things that you definitely wouldn't have considered were there before. Level loops back around on itself. There are two halves to the island, and you have to cross both halves at multiple points to get what you need. It's just cool. It's just a cool level. So now that you know about me and my sisters, now that that knowledge is out there, and I'm not going to pretend or go back to pretending that we're all one person, the next question that that a lot of people often ask is, how the fuck do you communicate with each other? And, you know, and son of a bitch, you know, in those sci-fi films and fantasy films and shit, where there are people who communicate through some method that general humans can't understand, but they expect us to believe is deeper than normal human communication. It's kind of one of those situations. It's not so much that we physically talk to each other, but more like our thoughts and feelings smash into each other, and we communicate via the mashing of thoughts and feelings against each other. There's no, like, out loud arguing about shit or anything like that. In case anyone had any thoughts on that, thought maybe that's how it went. There's no, like, out loud arguing with each other verbally. Can you pull the lever? Thanks. There we go. As was promised, I was sent flying. Had to show that off, even if it's not necessary. But yeah, the way my sisters and I communicate inside of our collective mind, not really something that I know how to explain to normal people. It's just not a way people talk to each other outside of this. And I've never met another person with this disorder that has described it exactly the same way, though I have met other people with this disorder, surprisingly. But yeah, that's one of the unfortunate things about having... Oh my god, an alarm started going off. Okay, that's fixed. Now, as I was saying, one of the unfortunate things about having this disorder is that there are many things you just can't explain to people that don't have this problem. And how my sisters and I communicate is one of those, because it's just not something most people will ever experience. It's difficult to talk about. But just trust me when I say that the feelings and ideas and beliefs, they're getting communicated. At no point is someone unsure of what someone else feels unless it's being deliberately hidden through very... You'd have to try hard to hide something. We're talking like deliberate repression of something. I don't even know how I would do that. Like if I wanted to, which I don't. Had enough repression for one lifetime. I'm already 25. But yeah, communicating shit adequately, never a problem. Never really an issue. So, like, now that you vaguely, I hope, understand the situation with myself and my sisters, it's not all peaches and cream. There are a lot of specific issues that come with this situation, more than just the way people react to understanding the situation or not understanding the situation. Something that comes up a lot is, well, now that we're done pretending that we're one person, and we're going to admit that we all have our own goals and work toward those goals and stop hiding, stop pretending we're something we're not, who do my sisters and I want to be? For me, that's easy. Nailed it. I am doing what I want to do right fucking now. You're watching it. You're watching me do what I want to do. This is me. I'm satisfied with this. I've got it fucking easy. I already figured out what I want to do, and I do it, like, all the time. Now, granted, I used to take some of my sister's time away to do what I want to do, and I can't do that anymore, because I want to give them room to grow. I want to give them room to explore their own desires. You know? I can't suffocate them with... Oh, this is really cool. We can only damage the crew of the Black Pearl when they're in Moonlight. And after we break them apart, we usually use their fucking bones to build something. How metal is that? This is the only time this mechanic appears, by the way. This level is the only time where you have to lure enemies into the Moonlight to damage them. It gets used much better later in the level. God, that's so fucking metal. It's kind of grotesque, too. I love this hat. I want this hat forever. Anyway, I already know what I want to do. That's easy. This is what I want to do. I'm doing it right now. I love talking. I love blathering about video games. I love Lego. Already doing it. I'm already fulfilled. But my sisters, you know, they spent so long just sort of going along, just because I capitalized first. And that's not fair. That's not fair at all. Like... Oh man, I guess I didn't even mention their names yet. I thought I was done with the hard introducing people shit part of this equation. So I'm savvy, not the verb, but also I like to think I'm the verb sometimes, but that's my name. And, you know, you can call me Games Are Super Nice or fucking Playable Passion or whatever. I don't give a shit. This is my channel. But, you know, okay, so I figured out what I want to do. And it's not a huge dream or anything. I feel like I've already got most of what I want. But, you know, one of my sisters, Grace, she has a dream too. And sometimes dreaming big hurts. And it hurts more when you're in this situation, because unlike most people who have 7 days a week to figure out what they're doing with their life, we only get 1 day a week each. There's 7 of us, and we split the time evenly, 1 day a week. We each get 1 day a week. And my sister Grace, she has a pretty big dream. She wants to make a game. Now, granted, the idea for the game she wants to make is really simplistic and stuff, but fucking still. You know, if you were only awake one day out of a week, then wouldn't that seem kind of daunting to try and make a video game with only one day a week of time? Man, there's so many things about this situation that I think are self-explanatory because I've been dealing with it for so long that aren't at fucking all. But all I need to know for now is that we split our time evenly across the week, and she only has one day a week to deal with whatever she wants to make and whatever she wants to do. And that's not enough time. At least she doesn't think it is. I think it's possible. Just have to make very good use of that time. Probably learn how to program in Unity. Split that time along with creating art assets, improving her drawing skills, all that shit. Sort of thing that requires a lot of encouragement, and I plan to be encouraging about it. But I get that it's hard. It's a pretty big dream relative to mine, which I've already got realized. Could you come into the moonlight? Just a little bit. Thank you. That's much better. It's just such a cool mechanic, building shit out of the bones of your enemies. It's kind of gross, but it's really cool. Like, if I were going to advertise the game, I would definitely mention this mechanic. You can rip your enemy's bones apart and build shit out of their bones to proceed. Maybe a little dark sounding for a Lego game, but, you know, it's accurate. It's just the words I chose may seem a little harsh compared to the words I think Traveler's Tales would use. I've got a shovel on my back. I don't remember where I got the shovel, what the shovel was for, but I've got a shovel. So, each time he sends down new enemies, the moonlight moves to a different location, and you want to strategically place yourself in the optimal way to lure them all the way into the moonlight and not get fucked. Usually that's the furthest place away from the water. Because if you hit them when they're half out of the moonlight, it doesn't count. They'll just come back. They gotta be all the way in. Everybody climb on their corpse. Get climbing. Fine, I'll do it myself. Bunch of pussies. Can't learn to climb on some bones. Right, so, in the first video I mentioned that my sisters and I, our mental situation is getting worse. I'm not talking about the multiple personality disorder. That's not the sort of thing that can get worse. There are already 7 of us. There's not going to be more than 7. We can't become more distinct because we're already completely distinct people. It's not real. That's not really the sort of condition that can worsen. It just is what it is, you know? But the depression, that's getting worse. Getting more and more miserable every day. It used to be only one of us, Aberratia, had anhedonia, but it's getting to the point where almost all of us are suffering from anhedonia. This wave of enemies comes with a guy that throws instant death bombs, which is fucking bullshit, especially if you care about actually living in Lego games like I do. The best way I can think to avoid the instant death bombs is just to jump like a madman until you see an opening. Which thankfully worked in this situation, but doesn't always. Most people might not even notice there's a guy with bombs, but I do because I actually care about living in Lego games. I think that makes the games more fun. Also, Will has a projectile. You might not know that, but that's important to know, because sometimes he's the only character with a projectile you have. He just has infinite hatchets to work with. You know, whenever I feel miserable, people ask me why I'm laughing, making so many jokes, and smiling. I think I've mentioned this already, but laughter and humor is a coping mechanism. People that often do comedic things, like, they don't feel so good. I'm not saying that you have to hate yourself or have things wrong with you to be a comedian, but, you know, I'd just be more concerned for people that are making a lot of jokes with startling frequency in your life. Maybe just a bit. Ironically, it's usually as simple as just asking how they fucking feel. A lot of people just assume people that make jokes are fine. Oh yeah, worth noting, probably some of my sisters are going to be making videos while they try and figure out what they want to do. Like, if they want to make videos too, that's whatever, and the videos are going to be on this channel, so... just fucking deal with it, I guess. They're my sisters. So, you know, whether it makes you uncomfortable or not, you're going to have to live with it. They're my sisters, and I love them, so just going to have to suck it up. So this part of the boss fight, we hit Barbossa with a coconut, and then when Borboozle gets hit with a coconut, we switch to another character and hit him with our sword, because a monkey jumps on our head, which will make it harder to hit him with a sword, because there's a monkey on our head, which you know, it is harder to do swordplay when you have a monkey on your head. But this final confrontation with Borbossa, really easy when you figure out the pattern. You throw a coconut, the monkey jumps on your head, so you switch to another character to hit him. Something I do really like about this boss fight is how much Borbossa moves around. I think that adds a lot of energy to the fight, that you can actually dodge your coconuts and you have to time your throws. Which I'm not doing a great job at, granted. But after we do take down Bong Nozzle, that will be the end of the first film already.